Hi, friends. Oh, wait. You guys can hear me. Patricia can hear me, so you guys can hear me.
I can hear you.
Woo, I am not doing my best. I am not a evening person, and it's already 5 o'clock. Usually I go live at 10 a.m., but now it's 5 p.m., and I'm like, what are words? Why do we do this thing? I don't know. But good morning, y'all. Let's not forget while I'm here. I am here with our wonderful guest today, Patricia Brooks. Yay,
Hi.
yay, yay. So, Patricia, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but you're going to have to do most of the work today because clearly I don't
Uh-oh.
have it. I don't have it. I don't know what's going on. My eyes aren't seeing very clear right now. I don't know. Listen, I don't know what's happening, but Patricia is your host and guest today, y'all. So,
All right.
Patricia, thank you for having me on your show.
So nice to have you, Rashida.
All right. Okay, Patricia, you are here. You are the Courage Catalyst online. So I want to talk to you about your move to South Central France, uh, what that looked like for you, and how courage has played a role not only in your move, but in how you help other people move. But first, let's get some backstory. Where are you from originally?
Born in Philly, raised in
Hmm.
South Jersey, but
Hmm.
spent the last 25 years in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if someone asked you from the street, just like randomly, what would you say? How would you answer that question if someone said, "Where are you
I'd say
from?"
Richmond.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Being abroad, sometimes people are like they want like where are you from? I say America, and they want more information, and it's
Mhm.
like, how granular do you want to get? Like, which years are we covering?
Exactly.
What do you want to know? Okay, so from Richmond,
Mhm.
when did you move to France?
In January of 2018.
Okay. All right. And can you tell the people where you live in France? Because I can't tell them where you live in France. So go for it.
It's a village of 8,000 people called Suresnes, Ceret, and the closest city is Perpignan. So I'm about 20 minutes from the Spanish border.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Now, is that where you moved to in 2018 when you moved
So
to
my
France?
first, pretty much, Perpignan was the city that I moved to in 2018. And then in 2019, I moved out for 40 minutes from Perpignan to Suresnes, where I am today.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, what drew you there of all the places you could go to in France or anywhere else?
Well, it was when I was thinking about moving to France, I took a scouting trip. And this region, Perpignan in particular, it just felt good to me. It felt very freeing to me. And so that's why I settled on this place. I didn't know it before. I came on a scouting trip and started out in Toulouse, and Toulouse was okay, but it wasn't my city. But while I was there, I took a day trip to Perpignan and fell in love.
Okay. Are you still in love?
Yes. Not with Perpignan, but
Okay.
with Suresnes. Yes.
Okay. Now, what is it about your village of 8,000 people that keeps you living there?
Uh, it is, it's just beautiful. It's at the foothills of the Pyrenees Mountains, about 40 minutes by car from the Mediterranean Sea. It's pretty mild in the winters. It's in the summertime, it is bright and sunny and well, it's hot, a little bit too hot, but it just feels good. It's so quaint. It's just it's hard to describe. You have to be here to understand.
Okay. Fair. Always a fair answer. Now,
Mhm.
in 2018, when you were, or let's back up a second. You moved in 2018. When did you get the idea to move to France? How did you get the idea to move abroad? And how did Perpignan?
That's good.
Listen, if I say any word that is not in English, it's going to have a Spanish accent. Just deal with it. Perpignan. Where? When did you land on that location as a place for your future?
All right. So 2014, 2015 timeframe was when I started getting the idea that maybe I could live in a French-speaking country. I
Mm-hmm.
had taken some trips to Canada, Quebec City, Canada, and thought, well, maybe Canada, but then rethought that, thinking about the winters. And so 2014, 2015 was when the seed was planted. But 2016 was when I was like, yes, I need to make this happen. And then 2017, Inauguration Day 2017, was when I said, okay, I know I want to do this thing. I don't even know if this is possible for me. I don't know that this is something that could happen for me. And so I hired a coach to get me unstuck.
Oh, nice. Was your coach someone that specifically worked with people moving abroad, or was it
Yeah.
more like a life coach, but just, and this is where you ended up?
A general life coach. She had helped one other person move to Italy for some time. And I thought, well, she helped this other person. I need help.
Okay. All right. Now you move to Perpignan. Is it everything you thought it was going to be? Was it at the time what you thought it was going to be?
Yes, it was because, well, first of all, I had left my job, right? So right there, any place I went probably would have been great. But it was because I had, that initial feeling of feeling free. I felt that. And I was able to get up when I wanted to and explore and practice this French language, which was the draw for me to France. And I had done it, right? Those first, I say 2-3 weeks, it was everything that I had anticipated it being. But after that was when I kind of had some doubts and some feelings of, oh, have I done the right thing in leaving a good paying job, in moving to a country where I knew no one.
2018 rolls into 2019. When did you start feeling like it was time to move again?
Well, so the end of 2018, I needed to find, I needed an address for my next visa because I needed to renew my visa. And I knew that I didn't want to stay in Perpignan. It was probably October, November timeframe that I said, yeah, this is the right area, but Perpignan is not the right city for me. And the reason that I thought that was I spent almost a whole year walking, exploring this town, this city that felt so right to me, but I couldn't find the neighborhood that felt right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I want to go back to your search because you currently help people move abroad. You help people move abroad, right? I'm not making that
Right.
up. You do?
No,
You know
that's
that.
right. Right.
All right. I want to talk through your considerations that brought you to small town southern France and how that was, I can do math, 6 years ago. So that was 6 years ago when you moved here. I want to know what you considered back then and what, after 6 years of experience and coaching other people, are some other things you should have taken into consideration that perhaps you didn't know of back there, or what would you have done better? Is, I guess, my question. So what went into your calculation when you figured this town would be a good stop for you, and what would you do differently / better if you're looking for another city this time?
So when I found Perpignan, what would I have done differently?
So first, what went into your calculation when you chose Perpignan?
Okay, well,
Was it
so
like cost of living, like that kind of the factors?
the factors, it was 90% was the feeling. 90%
Okay.
was the feeling, right?
Feeling.
It was
Yes.
90% was the feeling. Then cost of living, was reasonably, priced, place to live, and climate, right? That I'm not going to have a lot of snow or very, very cold winters.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the things that did it. The feeling, cost of living, climate.
Okay. Feeling, cost of living, climate. Now,
Mhm.
okay. When you moved to Surrey, were those the same factors you considered?
No, it was really just, I chose Surrey. I came to Surrey and I visited Surrey one other time before I found the apartment. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't 100% sure that Surrey would be it for me, but I knew that time was ticking down, that I needed to find an address. And I thought at least for another year, Surrey would work. So there was not anything that really wowed me that, oh, this is the place. Whereas when I found Perpignan that day, it was like, where am I? This is my new home. I just knew it was a feeling. Um, it's it's in the same region, very close. So cost of living was similar. That wasn't something it wasn't a drastic change, right? So that wasn't something I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go there, but it's going to be more expensive. And the climate, it's so close. So those things were similar enough.
Okay. Um, as a move abroad coach,
Mm-hmm.
what are the factors that you would recommend to yourself to perhaps consider but were not on your original list of 3 things?
Okay. Well, so one thing that I mentioned climate.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I would say to consider or make sure you look at is wind as a part of
Wins?
that. Wind.
Okay.
Yes, because I have my awning out to block the sun so it doesn't blind me. And I'm thinking, I hope the wind doesn't tear my awning off. But my first year, I came in the wintertime, and that first week of February, I went out for my morning walk, and I was like, oh, this is what it must be like to be in Chicago, the Windy City, right?
Okay.
It was just like, what? And the wind here is called the Tramontane. They name their winds here in France. And it's pretty fierce. It's pretty fierce. So that's one thing. Definitely, I recommend people visiting a place to see how that place feels to them.
Mhm.
I think for me, also knowing yourself. I lived in the suburbs of Richmond. I've never lived in a city. So for me to never have lived in a city and then say, oh, I'm going to pick this city. It's not a huge city, but still it's a city, and feel like that's going to suit me was a little bit naive, right? So also recognize yourself. It's like, well, yes, but know yourself as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when Chicago, February, when you were walking, you said that the weather's nice. So it has the wind of Chicago, but does it have like the negative 13 degrees of Chicago?
No,
Okay.
not at all. Not at
Okay.
all.
So February in Surrey is not a terrible feeling. You're going to lose your fingers and your toes because it's miserable outside.
No,
Sorry,
but
Chicago.
you just might be blown away, right?
You might be blown away, but it's like a nice. It's like you and like Mary Poppins with your umbrella blowing away in like
Well,
beautiful
I
weather.
mean, we have winter temperatures, right? We get
Mhm.
into the 30s, right? So,
Okay.
so a lot of wind with 30s can still feel pretty blustery, right?
Hmm.
But not like Chicago.
But not like
Yeah.
you're coming back without your fingers and toes. Okay, good to know. Good to know. All right, so you chose Surrey. You're there now. How long have you been here in Surrey?
I've been in Surrey 5 years. I was in Perpignan 1 year. Yeah.
Okay, so you went there like, I just need a place to put on this piece of paper, and now 5 years later, you're still there.
Mhm. Yes.
What keeps you there?
Well, the beauty, number one. My morning walks is through the foothills of the Pyrenees. Um, Number two is like there are villages that are, just one town over east or west. and they're quaint French villages, but there's nothing there. Here, it's got a town center. It's got 6 restaurants. It's got, 3 or 4, maybe 5 bakeries. It's got a little city center. And so it's vibrant. And in the in the summertime, it can be a little bit too vibrant. They like to have their parties here. They like Carnival. So it's not like nothing's happening here. So that the fact that there is some energy here is exciting as well. And now, after 5 years, I've made friends, and the community here is very welcoming.
Okay. Did you always feel like the community was welcoming?
No. So I am in Catalan country, and I have a French friend who moved from someplace else in France. I'm not sure where, but she said it took her quite a while to make inroads with people here, because the Catalan culture, can be kind of closed off, protective. So not initially, but I think there was that element, but also there are a lot of tourists who come here, maybe even just for summers or a few months. And so I think a lot of times people don't want to invest in a relationship with you if they feel like you're going to be seasonal.
So now that they recognize that you've been walking through those foothills every day for 5 years, are they like, oh, hey, girl, like, it's you again? Is that what it feels like your neighbor, like, do they know, but like, oh, that's her when they see you walking down the street?
Yes. So, that's a great example. So, one day I'm just walking on my morning walk. I run into a guy who has some farmland, and, who we, would say good bonjour, how are you doing? And, one day I'm walking by, and he's, picking the tomatoes that have just ripened. And he asked me if I wanted some tomatoes. And so, here he's giving me some of his tomatoes. It's that sort of thing. Another time it was apricots. So it's that sort of thing that, they know me, they know my name, and I feel very welcome here.
Okay. Do you think being a Black woman in that space was a bonus back then, or is a bonus now?
I don't think that it's a bonus. I don't think it's a bonus either way, but I also want to say that if it was a bonus, right? I don't feel like the fact that I'm a Black woman matters one way or the other, but I think the fact that I'm a Black American might matter. Like if I was African, then it might matter, and it might not necessarily be a bonus. I have a friend from Mali who's struggled here. I mean, he knows everybody. He knows absolutely everybody, but he will be the first to tell you it hasn't been easy for him.
Okay. So do you think being an American, not in the context of being Black, but in the context of being a foreigner, do you think being an American has been helpful? Or are you probably treated like anybody from anywhere else?
Well, I think there are a lot of British people here.
Okay.
So I think the fact that I'm not British and that I speak French might be a plus.
All right. That's helpful. I think we're all picking up in between the lines. Thank you. Like, there are times where, like, I live in Mexico City. There are times where I'm like, "Ooh, was that a racism? What's happening?" And there are times where, like, someone will remember me in a store that I was in like 6 months ago because, like, I am the Black girl in my neighborhood, right? Like, it's, you know what I mean? And like, I walk around and they see me, and not like I'm the Black girl in the city, but in like my neighborhood, there are very few of us. So like, oh yeah, like someone, I went back to a hotel once after not being there for like 6 months, and the doorman was like, "Ha!" Like very much like you again. And I was like, yeah, my phone gonna connect in this lobby. It sure is. Yes, it is. I was like, hey, right? So there is that part of not looking like everyone. And sometimes for me, sometimes that's a bonus and sometimes it's not. But, different places are going to treat
Yeah.
you.
Well,
Paris is going,
I
or
will
France.
say that when I see other Blacks here,
Mm-hmm.
in France, just in general, but here in my village, I think I've gotten pretty much over it now, but I will go for the nod or the, because I see you, that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. And I go to do it and they don't do it back.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really disconcerting in the beginning. Now I think I know not to expect it, but yeah.
Do you still take the lead and do the nod, even though you know
um,
you're not gonna get it back?
I I catch myself.
Okay.
I catch myself now.
Okay. I when I took my career break and I was in different parts of France, but mostly in Paris, that was the first place where I was like, I'm starting to take this no nod in return personal. Not like I know it's not personal, but I like everywhere else, it would just be like one or two, like every other person would nod back. In France, it was like, no, girl, no, no, baby, we're not, we're not doing this with you. And I was like, what
Yeah.
did I do? Like I just be, but yes, that was the first place where I was like, so y'all are gonna fight me on this, huh? You gonna fight? Okay, all right. I'm still gonna nod, but
It's
let me
real. Yeah.
let me get over the idea that the hope that you might do it back to me. I got to get past that, or I'm not gonna last here.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
catch myself now. But it took a while because it's so ingrained in me that,
Hmm.
I see another Black person. It's, that's what you do.
Hmm. And I think for me, when I was specifically remembering this experience in France, is that there are so many Black immigrant communities that are insular and, like you said, protective, right? Like the Catalans, they're protective of themselves and they stay pretty much together. That like I'm not gonna get there. Listen, I can walk for blocks and I'm not going to get this nod back from any of these Black people because they don't, I'm an outsider, right? Like
Yeah.
I see some commonality with them and they don't see any commonality. I'm seeing the commonality with them and they are not seeing it with
Yes.
me because to them I'm an outsider and to me it's like you're a Black person and I haven't seen Black people in days. Hi. Right?
Yeah.
Like you want to hug? What's going on? No, they
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
No. No. So yeah, so that was interesting for me, and I had to get over that. So I can imagine for you, the urge to be like, "It's a Black girl." Nope, no, my bad, my bad. Yeah. So interesting. All right. So you moved, small town France. The weather. What was the hardest part of leaving Virginia and moving to France?
As I think about it, I think nothing. Right? The hardest part, I was ready. I was ready. You asked me that question. I guess I was ready.
All right. All right. Now, what got you ready? Was it the life coach you were working with, or were you ready before that work?
I think I was ready before that work, but I didn't have a belief in myself. I didn't know if it was possible. I was afraid to look at my finances to see if I could come and not work. Um,
Hmm.
so, so, so before, which is why I hired the life coach, was because I was ready. I'm like, I know I want to do this thing, and for whatever reason, I'm not doing what it takes to get there.
Okay.
Mhm.
What made you know you wanted to move abroad?
I'm writing a book about this. Writing a book about this. It was something. A lot of people I talk to say, I've wanted to move to France all of my life. That's not my story.
Hmm.
I started traveling solo to Quebec City, Canada in 2014, and I fell in love with the French language. And like I said, thought maybe Canada would be my place. And I went back several times and then came to France. And my first trip, it was just Paris. It was Aix-en-Provence. And those were nice places. And while I could see myself living in France, I couldn't see myself living in Paris or Aix-en-Provence. But I
Mhm.
kind of got a sense that that was my place. So, and, coupled with the 2016 election, that started to lead into, the US is feeling much less welcoming to me, right? Much less like home to me, as well as the fact that I'd lost my parents. I lost my dad in 2010, my mom in 2013. So there was less holding me. There was less holding me in the US. All of those things coming together, and my idea of thinking, oh, maybe I could become fluent in French. All of those things came together, and intuition. This intuition. It was something that I felt like I had to do. It was this internal drive to get there.
Okay. All right. Moved to France. What is the biggest surprise?
Uh-oh. Am I frozen?
With life in France?
Am I frozen?
I think I might have froze. One of us froze. Did you hear the Did you hear the question?
No.
Okay. What has been the biggest surprise for your life in France?
The biggest surprise has been how much I've grown. Right. I came here on a career break. Didn't really think of it that way. It was just like it was time for me to not be in the US and to be in France. And now I have a business, helping women who want to move abroad. And I'm in the process of not hiring an intern, an unpaid intern. So, while it's not a paid employee, that feels like a big step. It feels like the growth that I've seen through this whole process is, I think, the biggest surprise to me.
Okay. Related, unrelated question.
Mm-hmm.
For your life in Suresnes,
Mm-hmm.
what is something you get to make up an imaginary position? You get to pay them whatever you want because you have whatever money it takes. Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Imaginary role, title, but it doesn't have to be something
Mm-hmm.
that actually exists. You get to make this up. What is one role you would hire for your current life? Not like business, but your actual Patricia walking through the foothills life. What's something that like you'd hire? Who would you hire?
Hire to
Do whatever.
What is the role that I would hire?
What is the role you would hire for?
Well, I mean, you said not necessarily for business, but I think about this.
Okay.
It's, when I'm out and about, I'm taking pictures of myself, doing the selfie stuff by myself. And it's hard to video yourself walking down the street. So I have a videographer.
Okay. Okay. So we need to find you an Instagram husband to come along with you and take photos wherever you go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Like a videographer friend. So some of us take people on trips and think they're going to take good photos of us, and they don't.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be careful. Listen, you can't hire, I'm telling you now, from my experience,
Mm-hmm.
you can't hire just anybody because these people show up and they want to be paid,
Mm-hmm.
mother, and they don't really know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to be selective about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you can do that. I think that's a role that's, well, I don't know. Let's talk about this real quick. What's the labor market like in Suresnes? Is it easy to get a job there? Hard to get a job there?
It's small town. If you want to pick fruit in the spring and summer, you can get a job doing that. But it's not, there's not corporate. It's touristy. So We probably get tourist jobs potentially, but yeah, no, the labor market here, I would not say is, if you're looking to find a job, probably not here.
Okay. What is the main type of tourism that happens there?
When you say main type,
Is it like you're 40 minutes from the water, right? So it's not like a beach
right?
activity kind of tourism. Is it just
Mhm.
like, is sleepy town, quaint town France like a type of tourism that people are like, is that what people are going for? Like just
Well,
small
yeah,
town?
but yes, but in the summertime, it's not sleepy. We're not
Okay, so
sleepy here.
tell me
We're
what
not
is sleepy
we're not
summertime?
sleepy here. No,
Listen, tell me
no.
what's happening in the summertime that
No,
has
no,
people,
no. We're not, no,
has
no.
tourism
Right.
jumping off. Tell me.
So, so, starting in the March timeframe, we've got carnival. So they've got the parade, they've got the floats, they've got the station set up for beer. Like they like to party here.
Mhm.
So in the summertime, we've got festivals. We got the Cherry Festival coming up in next month. So they'll have, stands to buy cherries, and, we'll have music and dancing. This actually, December 31st was the first year they did this, but they had in the town center, they had a DJ and they had lights and they had fireworks. It almost felt like a mini, I've never been to New York City for New Year's Eve, but that kind of vibe, people dancing, and it just was very fun. But in the summertime, we've got what's called feria, which is a weekend that I escape.
Oh, you leave?
Because
Okay.
yeah, it's too party for me.
Okay.
So this is a weekend that contains two things. So here in Surrey, there is a bullfight every summer
Ooh.
where they do kill the bull. So there's people on either side, right? And those people, a couple of years during COVID, we didn't have feria, but they had the bullfight. And the people who come to the bullfights are pretty calm. But the people who come for feria, they're coming to drink, they're coming to, have a lot of fun. And so from Friday to Sunday night, they've got brass bands, they've got people dancing, drink, just stuff, So summertime is vibrant here. It's not sleepy at all.
Okay, so feria happens in the summertime.
In July, yes.
July.
Mhm.
Whereas in Sevilla, it just happens last weekend, or no, some other city. Somewhere in Spain, it just happened. Anyway, any hoodle, not important. Okay, so summertime gets a little crazy. But that does sound like a good experience, a good little fun, little good time. So where do you go?
Yeah, it's a good experience in your first year and your second year. Like, okay.
Time to go. All right. So is Surrey the only town in the region that celebrates feria at that time?
Yes, I'm not sure. Like there are other. Yes, I'm going to say yes. I think that there are other towns that are not in my region or in this region that have bullfights. I'm not sure when they are. I don't know if it's coupled with this big party, but people are coming here from nearby to celebrate.
And the people that are coming, are they mostly French or perhaps Spanish people?
Yes.
Okay. So it's like local tourism.
Yes.
It's not when the Brits flock in.
No.
Okay.
And I think the Brits and some of the Brits live here, right? But I think it's just it's a quaint town. It's pleasant. There are things to do, either with the nightlife, but also nearby, right? So you've got your beach, you've got the mountains, you've got Spain, right? So there is a lot. It's a nice place, even if you're not going to stay in Suresnes the whole time, to kind of venture from.
Okay. All right. Where do you go when it's time for you to leave town?
Okay, like for feria? Yeah. So I have gone, and I've taken my friend from Mali. We have gone to the mountains, almost to Andorra. So we've gone to we've gone east to, there's a town called Les Angles. It's the ski resort towns, but in the summertime, it's nice. It's nice for two reasons. It's quiet and it's cooler because it gets hot here in the summertime. But in the mountains, you know, in the evenings, you might even need a jacket. So,
Okay.
or
All right.
Font Romeu is another place, but close to Andorra.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is the closest city that has an airport that will take you to the US?
Okay, Barcelona.
Okay. All right. So what I was asking there was like, what's the closest major city, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
I figured that'd be the easiest way to get there. Because,
Yeah,
and I'm
but
almost,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I almost said international, but I know they got a lot of flights probably from someone's farmland back there, just right
Yeah,
over
yeah.
the border, right?
Yeah, because there's an international airport in Perpignan, but I can't get to direct
Yeah.
to the States. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So Barcelona, how long does it take you to get to Barcelona?
It's a 2-hour car drive.
Oh, that's not bad. Is there a
Mhm.
train?
Well, so it's a little sticky because in order to get, yes, there's a train, but in order to do that, I've got to go back up to
Mhm.
Perpignan, away from Spain, and then take the train down. So
Okay.
mhm.
And so you drive?
I've driven, I've taken the train.
Oh, no, I
Driving,
meant generally, do you have a car at
oh,
home?
yes.
And you do drive?
Yes, I
Okay.
have a car. Yes.
Okay.
And I have driven to the airport to take a flight.
Okay.
Actually flew to Greece from Barcelona.
Okay. Great time to talk about randomly your residency status, which
Okay.
you didn't tell me we couldn't talk about. So I'm assuming it's okay.
No, she didn't go
And
there.
interview done.
So yes, so right now I am on a visa that's called Profession Liberale,
Mhm.
which is a visa that allows people to start a business here or freelance from here. And I've had that for 2 years now. I
Okay.
applied for that, and the first year, I needed to have a business plan. I needed, to show, I don't know if this was a requirement, but I think it helped. I needed to show that I could support myself, you know, as I was building my business. And then some other general things like, you know, having a place to stay, and I'm trying to think what the other ones are. But so that is the visa I'm on now. I applied for it, got approved for it for a year. And then when it was time to renew, I renewed, had to show that my business was working, that I was making, they want you to make the French minimum wage. And I was close to it. And I was a little bit scared that they wouldn't, you know, renew me. But I went and I got it renewed for 4 years. So
Ooh,
yes,
nice.
yes.
Okay.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Okay. And I think that Melissa Bro was on my channel a few weeks ago. She lives she's in Paris-ish.
Mhm.
And she's applying for the same, I think it's the same
Mhm.
visa. So that was
Mhm.
really interesting.
Yeah.
The connections. All right. So what visa were you on before this one? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, so I came on a visitor visa,
Mm-hmm.
which is a visa that I think people who are retired can come on. You
Okay.
just need to show that you can support yourself. There's big, you know, there's two camps. You know, one camp says you can't work on it, another camp says you can. I'm of the camp that says, yeah, you probably don't want to come on this visa and work, especially if you have intentions of staying long term or going for citizenship.
When you say work, does that also mean like your own business? So would you not run your business the way you run it if you were on the visitor visa?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that I
Okay.
would, yeah, yeah,
So even
that
like
I
an
would,
online business, you wouldn't
yeah,
do. Okay.
I wouldn't feel comfortable. There are people who are in the business of helping people with visas who say, "Oh yeah, sure, you can work." I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
Okay. So you were on the visitor visa for how long?
For 2.5 years.
Okay.
Because
And
as I was on that, I got the idea that I can't live off my savings forever. And I had gone through coach training while I was in the States. And I thought, I got to this point where it's like, oh, I actually moved to France. It feels really good. And I am able to, do pretty well here. And I want to help other women do the same thing. And so I started to do my research for the business and get some real people interested. And I was like, I need to do what I need to do so that I don't have a problem when going down the line. And so that's when I said, okay, I need to get my business plan together and apply for the visa, the Profession Liberale visa.
now, did you go straight from the visitor visa to the Profession Liberale visa, or was there a different
Yes.
visa in between? You went straight
No,
through?
I went straight I was visitor visa to Profession Liberale. I did need to return to the US to do it. I couldn't change
Ooh.
status here, although it might have been possible, but with the French administration and the red tape, I was advised that it's probably easier and quicker just to go back to the States to do it. And so I did. And, I went back, applied at Washington, D.C., and in less than a week's time, I had my visa approved.
Now, for that visa, the one that when Melissa described it, it sounded like they want to know that you're going to be looking for clients in France. Is that the same visa, same situation?
So people have said that, but I don't have any French clients.
Okay.
And the woman I worked with who looked at my business plan to make sure it was, solid, she says, no, that's not a requirement. So.
Okay. So when you went for your renewal, you didn't show them like a plan to have French clients.
No.
So you run we can call it purely online business. Is that fair?
Yes.
You run a purely online business, not focused on France, and you were still able to get this visa by showing that you have a business plan and you're likely to make more than the local minimum wage.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Y'all, are y'all hearing this? If y'all want to be in France, if you want to be in Suresnes or Paris or somewhere else, Stephanie wants to be in Provence. So, well, at least for a little while. I think she's headed there soon. So, that's interesting. It's good to hear. Did you feel like I know people talk about the bureaucracy in France. It's kind of like overwhelming. Did you find that with this visa application?
No. Well, so let me say this. So when you apply for a visa in the US, right,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just more efficient just because it's
Okay.
it's French, the French embassy in the US, but they're in the US. And so, but when I renewed my visas, my visitor visas, and even my Profession Liberale visa here in France, I had the documentation. I went for my appointment, and it seems like, I think it depends on the prefecture who you're dealing with.
Okay.
And I think that Perpignan is, knock on wood, is pretty efficient, because when I did go for my renewal for the Profession Liberale visa, I went in September, the beginning of September, and I think by the end of September, beginning of October, I got the letter saying, come and, pick up your visa.
All right.
Which is fast.
Fast. That is fast. Do you have to speak French to either make the process actually happen? It's like some places are like, you don't have to speak French, but like if you actually want to make it happen, you gotta get in there and talk to people. Or is speaking some level of French required to get the visa or to get the visa?
So yes. So
Okay.
It definitely, I feel like it helps. You definitely need to speak French.
Okay. But
If
it's not like a requirement of the visa.
No, but but be able to go
Make
through
the
that
process. Yes.
process,
Okay.
it would be hard. It would be hard not speaking French. In order to get the visitor visa, you don't need, there's no language requirement. For the visa I am on now, uh, there is one, and it recently changed. So I needed to have what they call a B1 level, low intermediate level French.
Mhm.
And if I didn't have that level, the French government would pay for French classes so that I could then take a test to show me that, to show that I have that level. And they actually paid for the test to show that I had that, at least that B1 level.
Okay.
So for certain multi-year visas, there is a language requirement.
Okay. For the visitor visa that you had, how long is it good for?
The
How long
visitor
was it
visa,
good for?
the visitor visa that I had was good for 1 year, and then you renew it
Okay.
every year.
Okay. Now, and that is what the visa that a lot of retired people are using. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So that's every year you got to go and hope
Yeah.
they give you the stamp again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
And then
have
I
different?
think go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think after 5 years, then you can go for a 10-year visa or for citizenship.
Okay. Thank you, because I was going to get there in a minute. For the visitor visa, what are the requirements you get to show? I think you said you had to show that you could support yourself, right? There's a monetary component. What are
Right.
the other requirements for that visitor visa?
So when I went for it, my understanding was that I needed to show that where I was going to be living for the entire year. Now that doesn't seem like that's the case, because a couple of people in my program have moved to France and they didn't have to show that. So what else do you need? You need to have insurance, whether that's travel insurance, if something happens that you need to be flown out, that, that you have that. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's a pretty straightforward visa. Wasn't that long ago, but I can't remember the other specifics.
That's fine. And everyone, I see your great questions. I have starred them. I'm not forgetting about you guys. We're going to get to these questions. I see some really good ones. But I want to stay on the visas for a little bit longer.
Mhm.
So with the visitor visa, you apply, you have meet the requirements, you can reapply every year, and then in years either get a 10-year or apply for citizenship, right?
Yes.
Remind me again why you switched over to the business visa if the visitor visa was working for you?
Well, it was working for me, but I was living off my savings. And so
Because
I
you weren't
started to
working.
see my savings dwindle. I was like, I got to figure this out.
Monday, I forgot about
Money.
that. You said no working on the visitor visa. That's right. All right. So that'll do it, right? That'll do it. My question for you about the visitor visa was that every year when you go back, do they ask you for renewal? Do you have to meet the same financial requirements or different financial requirements each time? Do you have to, so in Mexico, once you prove financial solvency, they don't ask you again. If you did it once, they don't ask again. Is France like that? Or every year, are they like, show me your papers?
Yeah, every year it's the 3 months of bank statements or
Okay.
whatever shows, or if you've got stubs or whatever.
Okay, so that is probably a moving requirement too over time, because these governments never leave any numbers the same.
Yes, I think I was good the couple of years that I did it, but I know the French minimum wage has increased, and so it might be tied to that. So yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about the profession liberal visa. Did I say that right? Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. I'm fluent in French now. Okay, so let's talk about that visa. You got it. It's working for you. You had a business plan that was strictly online. And now that it's renewed for 4 years, do you have to show them anything at all before the end of this 4-year period?
No.
All right. Now,
Well,
ideally,
so you're talking strictly about the visa piece of it.
yes,
Yes.
yes. What is the other piece that you might have to pony up?
Well, so every 3 months, I have to submit what my revenue is, and so that I can pay my social charges. Right, social charges are for health insurance, are for things like maternity leave. Although I'm not going to have a baby.
Are you sure?
Yes, yes. Disability, that sort of thing. So every 3 months I have to submit, what my revenue was and then pay that, which is about, it's 22% of what I've made.
Okay. So, and do you also pay taxes to the U.S. government?
So there's a treaty between France and the U.S. And so I file my taxes. So I just finished filing my taxes. And then in March or May, I have to do my French tax declaration. And since I'm a tax resident of France, then if I would owe to France. There's a threshold. I don't know if it's $110,000 a year or something that I don't have to pay U.S. taxes on. And then after that, then I would have to pay to the U.S.
Okay. Okay. So without getting too far into your business, we can get there, but we don't need to get there. Generally, you pay taxes to both countries, but the number depends on something going on, or is that wrong?
No. So far, I haven't had to pay taxes. I've had to file my taxes, my U.S. taxes every year.
You file with, but there's been no payment.
Yes.
Okay.
And I do my French tax declaration, and so far I haven't had to pay that because my business has not met that threshold.
Okay. Yeah. So you haven't had to pay these social charges.
No.
Okay, now you pay social. You're paying the social charges Okay.
Social charges are not income tax.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So you're paying social charges of 20%, but you're not paying taxes to either government right now.
Right. But I file both places.
Yes. Okay. All right. That's not bad. That's not bad.
And I want to say with the visitor visa, you know, even if you're, living off of savings or whatever, you still need to file your French tax declaration because you are a French tax resident being here more than half the year.
Okay.
And if you don't do that and you want to go on later on, go get citizenship or the 10-year, that might bite you in the butt.
Okay. So this question is for the visitor visa and the profession liberal visa.
Okay.
How long do you need to be in the country each year when you're living on those visas? Like, can you get it and then leave and then not come back for a while?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. Curious?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm here most of the time. I do a little bit of traveling, but not a ton. So. Okay.
All right. All right. So even under the visitor visa, you are a French tax resident. Okay. All right. Let's talk about what you get. Nope. I want to talk about what you get for these social charges real quick, and then we'll get to the questions. All right. So what do you get for the money you pay in your social charges?
All right. So I have the carte vitale, which is the French healthcare system. and I go to the doctor and I pay up front the $29 or whatever, but then it's reimbursed into my bank account. I don't have to I go into the pharmacy and I don't have to pay anything out of pocket.
My jealous face. My
Right.
very jealous face.
Yeah. So the healthcare is, a big part of that. You also, as I said, the maternity leave benefits, which are, I think, I think they're pretty good. I don't know how many weeks people get off, but I think that's good. Disability, if I, unable to work, that would be part of that. I pay into some sort of training, so that I have these credits that I can use to get training. So there may be more than that, but I think the big piece is that healthcare and the time off if you have a disability.
Okay. The healthcare sounds amazing. If you're on the visitor visa, so you're not making any income, are you still eligible to be on that health insurance, the nationalized health insurance?
You are.
Okay.
You are. And I didn't know that initially. So my first, 2 years here, I just paid out of pocket. Right. Went to the doctor, it's $29. Okay. And if I needed blood work, $45, $50. Okay. Compared to the US, it was like not a big deal. And even with prescriptions. So, but you are eligible and I think you have to pay. I think it's called PUMA. I don't know what it stands for, but there is some sort of contribution you would have to make to that. I don't know, what that would be or what that looks like or how much that would be.
Okay. That's very helpful. All right. Now it's question time. And the first ones I'm going to ask you are about healthcare. So Dominique Trammell just asks, can you talk about healthcare? So since we just talked about costs, let's talk about quality, availability, those kinds of things. I love comparing things. So what is your biggest complaint about the French healthcare system versus the US one? What's something that France could learn from America?
Well, I mean, I hear that even in the US, there people can wait a long time to see a doctor. But last year I needed to see an allergist and I waited close to 9 months to see an allergist.
Okay.
Right. So that was not ideal. Also, finding a primary care doctor, at least here in my area, has been challenging. My doctor, my initial doctor here was my landlord from my first apartment in Perpignan, right? Okay. So I was good, right? I was good, but he retired last year. So then I had to find somebody. And so nobody has an open panel. Nobody's accepting new patients. And so that is a big frustration for me. I found one. He's okay. I'm looking for somebody else. And I'm butting my head up against that. So that is a big frustration for me. Now I'm in a smaller, countryside community. So if you're in a Paris or a Montpellier or a Nice even, maybe you won't have these problems. But for me, that's what I've experienced.
All right. Now, what should America learn from the French healthcare system?
That it doesn't have to be that expensive. That they're right. I mean, because if I can be here 2 years and just pay out of pocket and feel like, oh, well, I could do that. I don't need the healthcare, right? I mean, if I were to get sick, go to the hospital, then yes, probably it'd be more expensive. But, it's a business in the US. Whereas here in France, it's healthcare.
Thank you for sharing. Janae asked, another healthcare related question. And I think you kind of got to that, but let's talk more. So it's hard to find primary care physicians where you live. And is that why you think you had a hard time finding your allergist, just because of where you
No.
are?
So I found the allergist and she was accepting patients. It was just a long wait to
Okay.
be seen.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you think that long wait is because of where you are, or do you think that long wait for a specialist like that is what people are seeing all over the country?
I think it might. I don't know.
Okay.
I suspect that it might be similar across the country, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't have any experience for my answer.
All right. Related, unrelated question. What is one thing that makes you think, oh, I wish I lived in this other town instead of Surrey because this would be easier? Right? Like, is there anything that you can't get? Anything that you want more of?
Yeah.
Like, you probably don't have a Chipotle. So what is it that like would be available to you in a larger town in France that is not available to you where you are right now?
Well, so I do miss. So when I was in Perpignan, I lived like a 3-minute walk from the train station, right? And you asked me what the closest airport was. I said Barcelona. But when I fly back to the States, I'm going up to Paris just because it's a more direct shot with the train.
Right.
The train goes to the airport. I don't have to worry about figuring that out. And
Right.
so I miss not being able to just walk to the train station and have my trip, right?
Okay. All right. So, and train travel is one of the things I love about Europe the most because like I can just get up and go. I can just go. And so not being in a place that has easy or convenient train transportation, I could see that being kind of a bummer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And like I said, I don't travel a whole lot, but when I do travel, you know, when you're coming back from a long trip, getting to the train station in Perpignan, oh, now I got to take the bus to get right or pay for the parking, right? So that's one thing I'm like, oh yeah, you had it good.
You never knew how good it was till you left. All right. Thank you.
So I do think if people like to travel, that is definitely. You asked me a question early on. What would you recommend people consider about when they're picking a place? That is something that I would say if you do a lot of traveling and you're moving to Europe for that reason, you might want to be someplace where there is a train, that will take you
Okay.
to, yeah.
And a train that goes directly to the airport is nice too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's see. Outside of your town, where else do you enjoy socializing or visiting in France?
Mm-hmm. I love the town called Narbonne, Narbonne. It's about an hour from where I am. And it is, I don't know, there's something special about that town as well. There's a little river that runs through it that has this Gothic cathedral, has this marketplace, this covered marketplace called Les Halles, and where you can, eat and, they have neat restaurants there, and, it's a market. So it's just a really neat place to visit. I've been to some other places that don't necessarily frequent all of the time, but I've been to Marseille last year. I went to Marseille, and that was a neat place to be just because of the different cultures, and the people there just seem really very friendly.
Okay. All right. Thank you for answering. In alignment with life healing and life alchemy, what's dating like in France?
What's dating like? I've had some success and not. I've been successful and not successful. So The longest relationship I've been in here has been 9 months. And that was, I met somebody in an online dating app. And I think the thing that you asked me this question, a question, what surprised you most? I think I was most surprised at how challenging intercultural dating can be, right? Just because we don't have the same reference points. We don't have the, so there's that aspect that has been hard for me, kind of communicating as well, right? Because it feels like I don't know if this is more so than in the US, but the French men I've dated haven't been able to communicate or express their emotions the way that I, as a 57-year-old woman now, would like, right? So there's that aspect, but there's also the French men that, at least down here in the South, they're short. And, I used to have this idea that, French men, they're so sexy. Mm. The language is sexy, but
okay. All right, that's fair.
Yeah. So it's been, it's been okay. I've dated mostly white French men, but I have dated a couple of Black with who have African backgrounds, and it's kind of hit or miss. It feels like it's dating, right? It's
wherever you go, there you are, right?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I do think that for a lot of us, I'm always surprised when people tell me that their dating experience is wildly different when they go someplace else. And I also often wonder, like, is there something wildly different about you when you're in this other place?
Mm-hmm. 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 I think that's the case.
I'm just saying, sometimes I'm like, because I feel like for me, wherever I go, it's the same thing, right? Like, I don't know. So I'm always interested in that. But thank you. So it's dating.
Yeah, I will say, I do want to say that when I was in the US, I was married, got divorced. After the divorce, didn't really date a whole lot. I think in France, I've dated a whole lot more than I ever did after my divorce. So I think in that way, I'm different and maybe more open to meeting the one, but without a whole lot of luck.
We're gonna keep our fingers crossed for you.
Thank you.
Well, it's healthcare and men. Like, what? Oh, wait a minute.
And a man who's going to be my videographer, right? Right. I'm putting my order in.
you want healthcare and Instagram. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, much. All right. We're going through kind of a speed round right now. What's the political climate there? So I'd love for you to talk about, that's from C's Latin. I'd love for you to talk about the climate in France in general and in the area you're in, if you feel comfortable speaking to that.
So I think France in general, there is a increase in toward the right, leaning toward the right, the far right, because in, I guess, the last presidential election, we had was against Macron against Le Pen. And so it was the same thing from 6 years or 5 years earlier. And she reduced his lead over that time period. So there is definitely a leaning toward more far right here. And I think that can be seen also I mentioned that there are the language requirement, the language level requirement has increased. So last year, for me to go for citizenship, I only needed a B1 level of French, which is low intermediate. In January, they increased that to a B2. So, and other language requirements have increased. So I think that shows that there is that. Where I am now, in the South, I know Perpignan has a mayor who is far right. Our mayor here isn't, but I think maybe in the South it could be. Well, in Perpignan, I'll just speak for Perpignan for what I know. So.
Okay. But you feel fine. You like your neighbors. Everything in your face is pleasant.
Yes.
All right. Is the food there more Spanish influence or French coastline?
Yes.
Or
Yes. So at the market, we have a wonderful market here on Saturdays. And so there are people who have paella, big, round, they're not woks, but, those big dishes.
Those big pots.
Of paella. Because we're close to the sea, we do have that seafood influence as well. So, and then there's Catalan. I mean, that's its own culture as well, so we've got a mix of it. Okay. It's, different from the north, different, each region of France has its own style of cooking, but we definitely have that Spanish influence.
I'm bumping us out of the speed round for a second because I have a question. Who would you recommend come to Suresnes to visit for a week, and who would you say should not come to visit for a week?
Go. Well, okay. So, and it's a week. What time of year?
Anytime. You can answer this however you want to.
Okay.
A week in the summer if it's not feria. A week in the summer if it's not feria. Who should come and who should not? Who would be a good fit for a visit there?
Well, so somebody who is looking for, this is a hard question. Somebody who is looking for a beautiful place, a place that they can relax, a place that they can be out in nature, a place where, if they enjoy art, we have a modern art museum. Like if they're interested, Pablo Picasso used to come here, and do his thing. So there's a history here. So if art is something that you're interested in, I think that would be a good fit. But if somebody's looking for nightlife, like clubs, we have a little club on the corner of the street here.
But it's not.
I don't know. It's just, sometimes it's open, sometimes it's not. I've never been inside. I don't know if I even feel comfortable going inside. So, so somebody who's looking for a more, somebody who should come is somebody who may be looking for, 3-4 days here and then going to the beach and going to the mountains and kind of exploring the area, versus somebody who wants to have it all contained there
in one place.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That is helpful. Thank you.
Oh, I passed.
Carmen said it was a great question. So thank you, Carmen. All right. All right. We'll go back to the speed round.
All right.
Wait, Jev called me Auntie Rashida, and I have no idea which Jev who were listed. It's been too long. Show yourself. Who is this?
It was shaking bacon.
My brain don't. It's late. My brain does not work like that. I don't know your names from the YouTubes. Hi, family. Whoever that was. Hi. Okay. What is your total expense each month? Now, pause. I don't personally like this question. Sorry, CM Stu, nothing personal. Patricia telling me what Patricia spends does not help me unless I get to Unless I get to see the exact brand of butter she buys, like it just doesn't help me, right? So what I would love for you to answer instead is, I did this before with Charlotte, so I'm going to treat you like I treated Charlotte. Think of the most lavish friend you have, the one who was like, she's opening champagne in the morning because she's thirsty. It's not water. She's running around spending money left and right. Think of her. You know her in Richmond. You know her. All right. And then also think about your friend who was like, we'll call the first friend Katie. I don't know why Katie just came to mind. We have another friend called Monica who you cannot get $1 out of her hand, right? You just not, you can do it. Right? Katie's like, is there something to buy? Show it to me. And Monica is not giving up dollars. All right. So what would Katie, who's, being fancy, spending money, blowing money as fast as she can, what would be like living expenses for her if she was in a 2-bedroom apartment in Surrey, close to whatever you consider a city center?
I mean, this is a really hard question because, I've been here 5 years. I haven't been looking at, ads for apartments.
It's all going to be a guess. It's just going to be a guess. These are made up people. It does not matter. Guess with me. Just guess with me. All right.
All right. So Katie should be paying for it. And this is a place that she's renting?
A place she's renting, yes.
All right. And it's a lavish place.
It's as lavish as Surrey allows, right? Right? There's going to be some limits. But and not like she had something custom built for her, but like she showed up, she looked for like a top of the line place and she rented whatever top of the line place was available.
$900 a month, $950 a month?
I choked a little bit inside when you said that number. Okay. So $950 is going to get you 2-bedroom and lavish in Surrey, most likely.
Well, so I'm thinking about, what I pay, right?
Right.
And then thinking above that, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's all we have to do. That's all we're doing. Okay. Now the rest of her living expenses, think food, think transportation, think eating out. These are made up people. We can have made up numbers.
All right. Let's have fun here then.
Yeah. What is Katie spending for the rest of her? So $950 for her housing, for the rest of her total expenses for the month. Ballpark it. You can compare it to yours by it's use yours as like.
So food's just going to be going out a couple of times a week, right?
Right.
So she'll be paying maybe $120 a week for food.
Okay. All right. So would lavish life Katie.
Lavish life Katie probably wouldn't be in Surrey. She'd probably be in Nice.
Okay, but lavish life Surrey is in hiding from Prince, who happens to be right across the border in Spain. Lavish life Katie's hiding, so she can't be in Nice. He's in Nice looking. He knows to go to Nice to look for her. He doesn't know to go to Surrey to look for her. She's in hiding because he's obsessed with her. All right. She's in Surrey. Top of the line living expenses. Are we talking $2,500 a month total? $3,000, $2,000? Reasonable. You know what I mean? Like not someone who's eating out every single day, but like reasonable living expenses for someone who's living a lavish lifestyle.
Yeah, $2,000, $2,500 a month.
Okay. This is the lavish. This is what lavish in Surrey is going to cost you. We're guessing.
Yeah.
They're made up people, made up numbers. Thank you. All right. Now we're going to Monica. Monica is going to grip $1 until the green comes off in her fingers. What is she spending? But she needs a 2-bedroom because she has 6 cats and they need their own room. So she's also got a 2-bedroom. No, the cats can stay with her. She's got a 1-bedroom in Surrey. Or a studio or a 1-bedroom. 1-bedroom. We're gonna stick to that 1-bedroom apartment in Surrey. What is Monica paying? Where she's not eating out. She's,
maybe a $450 a month.
I'm so sorry. Was that all in or was that just housing?
That's just housing.
Okay. I thought you meant all in, and I was like, watch us all move to Surrey right now.
Yeah.
Okay. $450 a month for housing. And what do you think all in? Living expenses, groceries, transportation.
Um, um, $700 a month.
Okay. Are we talking US dollars or euros when you have been saying these numbers?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What? No, someone just asked, and I'm like, we didn't have to
Yes,
talk about
that's a good question because I am thinking in euros, right?
Okay.
So
All right.
so it'd be more, right?
Okay. Let me get my app up.
Good question.
But that's helpful. It gives us a guide. So we're gonna go to euros, and
Yes.
we're gonna say that. So you said 700 all in for
Yeah,
Katie.
say 750. Say 800.
Why you? Katie's spending all that money, so that's $853 a month all in for Katie. And for Monica, we said top of the line would be like 2,500. That's
2,500.
$2,666.
So somebody said they found some information. Aileen Brown said she found some information.
Yes. $485 for an apartment. Thank you for doing the
Thank
research.
you. Thank you for getting me off the hot seat.
Listen, you were good. Look how good you were, though. You said 450, and now look at us. Look at us.
All right. All right.
And that was 450 euro, which, listen, I'm gonna tell you in a second, is $480, and it's 485. You just knew. You knew the brilliance. You had it deep inside. This is why you help people move, because you know, even when you don't know, you already know.
It's reasonable here.
Okay, so all in, Katie could spend $900.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Why not? Maybe she could spend even less than that.
Wild to live in the French countryside.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What is a mistake you see people make when they move abroad?
Well, I think sometimes people, when they plan to move abroad, they envision themselves living abroad as if they're on vacation versus recognizing that while there'll be that honeymoon period and things will be different for a while, that is just going to be life, and not anticipating or not, like, I think the language is a big thing. So I think thinking that, well, once I get there, I'll automatically become fluent, and then living in this place that they've wanted to live in, and then not necessarily having the language skills makes it even that much harder. So I think not preparing, not only with language, but preparing mentally for, and it's hard to prepare for cultural differences that you don't know that that are going to rub up against you. But I think under anticipating that, I think, is a big issue.
What are things you see people over prepare about when they're thinking of moving abroad?
I think, and this people might say, can you over prepare for the administrative stuff? But I think a lot of times people will need to have, they're anticipating all of the things that they're going to need to do or figure out once they're there. And so then they plan and prepare, and they plan and prepare, and they plan and prepare and plan and prepare and never
and action.
Right. And never actually do the thing, right? It's because, oh, well, how am I going to get a bank account when I'm there? Well, okay. Yes, you're going to need that bank account, but
you got to get there. You got to get there.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about your program and how you help people who want to move abroad.
Okay.
And do you only help people who are moving to France?
Okay. So I have a program that's called the Carefree Expat Incubator program. And it's for single women who are ready to start the next chapter of their lives living in a foreign country. So typically, it doesn't have to be France, but Europe are the people who are in my program now. Portugal, Berlin, Germany, Spain, France. And I help them. The way the program is set up, it's a two-pronged approach. There is an online course portion where I walk them through determining why it is they're going to turn their lives upside down so drastically so that they can live in this country they've been dreaming of, because that why will ground them in when it gets hard or when they start to get frustrated. It walks them through, well, who do they need to become? What self-identity do they need to embrace so that they can make the move, number one, but then have the kind of experience they want to have once they are living in that country they want to live in. So that talks about the beliefs and habits that they might not already have, but they need to develop. And then that third part of that lesson is about putting a plan in place, working the plan, getting it done, right? So that's all online. That second part of the program is a group coaching and mentoring program where they join the calls and they can ask questions about the course. If they're working through something, they can be coached through something that is a hang up for them. Perhaps getting rid of stuff is something that they're struggling with. They can work through that. It's group, so they're on the call listening to what other people, what the other women are going through or struggling with, and thinking, oh, I didn't think I wasn't considering that, but that's something that I need to consider. And there's encouragement from that community. It's a really solid community. And with that, you get access to the private Facebook group, and there is access to this program for 3 years. So somebody who's ideal for this program, who's ready to make that move, but has been struggling to kind of get unstuck, would be somebody who's ready to move in the next 18 months to 6 months to 18 months. So with that 3-year access, they have, they prepare for their move, and they have time on the back end once they're there, if when they get there, things are more challenging than they had anticipated, they can continue to join the calls. So that's the program.
All right. Now, who do you think is a perfect fit for your program?
Perfect fit for my program is somebody who has been aching to move abroad for a while, right? It's been something that they've been thinking about and dreaming about and researching and exploring. And for 2 years or 5 years, maybe even longer than that, and hasn't managed to make it happen, even though they know everything they need to do. They've done the research, and there's something that's blocking them.
Okay, so someone who's been sitting with the desire, but not sometimes we take action, but the action isn't actually the action is spinning us in a circle
Yes.
and not moving us forward. And so
Yes.
if you've been in a little bit of a wash
Yes.
cycle being spun in a circle
Yes.
while you still feel like you're taking action, but you're not, if you're taking action but not seeing progress, you'd be a
Yes.
great coach for them.
Yes.
Y'all heard it? All right. So tell everyone how they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Courage Catalyst. And on YouTube, my channel is Patricia Brooks, Carefree Expat. So if you are interested in, talking with me about working with me, you can go to my website, thecouragecatalyst.com, and you can learn more and schedule a call with me.
All right. Personal question time. How old were you when you moved to France?
I was
Perpignan?
I was 51.
Okay. Did you, looking back now,
Mhm.
was 51 the right age to move? Should you have done it earlier? Should you have waited longer? What do you think?
I think for me, it was the right age because, as I said, I hadn't always wanted to live in France. I wasn't a big traveler, had just gotten my passport in 2013. So this idea or thought of living in a foreign country came to me in around 2014, 2015. So it's fairly new. And I guess maybe I could have, if I had to do it over again, maybe I would have done it 1 year sooner.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
Good to know. Do you meet your community in Surrey? Is it mostly locals? Are there a number of foreigners to the area that you're friends with? Who are you mostly creating community with? Is it a good mix?
It's a pretty good mix. When I first moved to France, I really avoided the English speaking expat community because I wanted to get fluent in French. And so
Mhm.
initially, I'd say my first year and a half, I was kind of, shying away from that. But now it's a good mix, right? I'd probably say I have more French friends, probably 60% French, 40% English speaking expats, whether they're Brits or, you know, Americans.
Okay. All right. And are you running into other foreigners who are your peers?
Yes. Yes. There's a woman who she lives here part time and she's a professor, and she's my age, you know. So there's her. In terms of, other Black women, there's one other Black woman that I have as a friend here in Surrey,
Mhm.
um, but I don't have a lot of minority friends.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, because there aren't a lot of minorities to be friends with.
Yes, they're not a lot of minorities to be friends with, and I just don't know that I'm in, the same circles.
Fair, fair. Okay. Back to the speed round because some people's questions did not get answered. If you have questions, y'all don't forget to drop them. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just moving along. Dominique, so this is going to be a question from a long time ago, so you've got to think back on it. Was downsizing difficult? From Dominique Trammell.
Um, it wasn't really, yes and no. It wasn't difficult for me to get rid of most of my things because I clean out my dad's house, I clean out my mom's house. So this was something that it was just something that I just learned how to do. However, having said that, once my house was just about empty and it was down to the things that were sentimental that I really wasn't sure what to do with. My mom and dad's wedding album, my wooden Pennsylvania Dutch high chair I'm looking at now that, is beautiful. And, what do I do with that? Those things, that became hard for me to figure out what to do with. And 3 weeks before my move, I was starting to get stressed about, okay, I've done a really heavy lift and my house is just about empty. What do I do with these sentimental things? And so I made the decision, probably wrongly, to get storage, to get a storage unit. And it was small because there wasn't a whole lot of stuff, but I hadn't even considered the idea that perhaps I could just ship it. Maybe I could afford to ship these few things that had sentimental value to me. So I got storage, told myself, it'll be just 1 year. And when I returned to the US the following year, I just didn't feel like dealing with the storage unit. So I didn't.
What happened?
Of course, the rent goes up, right?
Uh-huh.
So, year 2 was like, oh, Patricia, you need to get rid of this. And so I did. The problem was that when I went back the following year in end of February, beginning of March to deal with this, February 2020, right? March of 2020, the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm fooling with my stuff. And I'm listening to the French president say the borders are closing in France, and I'm in the US, right? So that was something that I probably wish I had done differently. Just found a way to ship, even though I had 3 weeks to figure it out. Yeah.
And what was the final result with that storage unit?
So I did. So in 2020, I got my stuff and I found a shipper, because I was like, I don't really still know what to do with these things. I would like to, in my mind, I said, I would really like to have a part of me, pieces of me from before to show, when I find my videographer boyfriend, show him this, right? So I had it shipped. I got a quote, had it shipped. And it was, I would have paid less if I just had it shipped initially. And I would have been able to ship more because there was space for more, but I just didn't have. And if you move to France, you can ship your items, but you need to do it in the first year or else you pay import taxes.
Okay. So let Patricia and I both be cautionary tales for you about what not to do. If you're going to ship your stuff, ship it right away, right? Ship it when there's usually a window. For Mexico, it's the same window or a similar window. And maybe when I call them and they told me how much a fee was just to get my art, just to get the art, but I couldn't bring on the plane with me down here. I was like, are the cartels hiring? Because I may not have the skills they're looking for or the work ethic, but maybe mama needs some cat. Like, what do we do? Once you pay the shipper and then you got to pay customs fees on top of that, so disrespectful. It's so disrespectful. What are these numbers? Why can't we?
And it's there, right? Your stuff is there.
So what do you do? I didn't like that. I did not like that. Okay, so yes. What would you tell a client now about downsizing?
Well, so, I mean, I think, I guess the question is what would I tell them about downsizing if my client was struggling with it?
Yes.
I would I would say, well, what's your why? And go back to, that part in the program. Why are you turning your life upside down to live in this country that you really want to live in, right? And how is your stuff that you are struggling to part with, how is that going to, does that play into your why, right? If those things are a major part of the why that you're moving to this foreign country, which it probably isn't because you have this stuff and you want to go someplace else. But if it is, then find a way to bring that along without having to store it. Otherwise, look at your why and look at your stuff. And if that doesn't fit in, it doesn't work with your core values, then get rid of it.
What if your why is your stuff? What if they're so aligned that it's hard to separate the two? No, this is me and my trauma. We'll talk about this another day.
You want me to coach you? You wanted me to run your session? Now you want me to coach you? I don't know. This feels like work.
This is not what I signed up for. All right. So we're not move on past that. Pretend that moment never happened, y'all. Okay. So girl, please ask. We're back to speed round. Given the French bureaucracy, how far in advance of the one-year visitor's visa expiration should you begin the renewal process?
I believe they recommend 2 to 3 months. I think it's 2 they recommend, but I think maybe 3 would probably be good.
Okay.
And like I said, you might luck out, if you're renewing and you're in a region where the prefecture is on the ball, or they're not backed up, or whatever the issues are that keeps them from processing, then you might luck out, but 2 to 3 months.
Okay. That's helpful. All right. I'm going to ask the second part of Ty's question, because we already covered the first part. Why do you choose this region in France? Is it possible? We're going to ask this positively. Is it possible to survive there for a number of months without speaking French?
Well, survive there, right? I think that's what.
Let's say that to thrive. We're going to say, can you thrive? Is it possible to thrive in your region for months without speaking French?
I would say no. I would say no. I don't think there are some people who speak English. Mm-hmm. And, this in Suresnes, it's touristy, so there may be more than most, but the English that they speak is around, how much does this cost, or that sort of thing.
Transactional nature.
Yes. So okay. I think really to have an experience with locals, to feel like you're able to, and, even now being fluent, there are some things that I struggle to express and feel like I can advocate for myself in the US, right? Mm-hmm. But here in France, when I know what I want, and it can be really challenging to be able to express that. And so I think about not having any French and just trying to, do the basics. I think it would be really hard.
All right. Related question from Dominique. I want to ask you first, how did you get fluent in French?
Okay. So before my trip to Quebec City, I had gone there as a child, and I remembered they spoke French there. So I decided to sign up for this program called the Pimsleur Method, which is a language learning program. It's all audio for the most part, and you listen to a 30-minute lesson, you repeat the prompts, and over time, you start to pick up the language. And so that's what I used. That's what I used for French. That's what I'm using in part for Spanish now as well. So.
Okay. So is that a program you would recommend for other people?
Yes,
as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I recommend it to people who it's a part of a learning process, right? Because as I said, it's audio. What I like about that is I would listen to the 30-minute lesson on my morning walk. And so I'm listening, I'm speaking the prompts, I'm walking. There's something about that seemed to work for me. If you're a visual person, you probably want to, if you use this program, you probably want to have something where you can actually see the words or associate them with the objects or whatever. But for me, it was very effective.
Okay. All right. What is something we haven't talked about that we should talk about in the next 15 minutes?
Oh gosh, you're making me work again.
I told you it was your show, and I'm just a guest on your show. So truly, get to work.
I think what is something that we haven't spoken about that we should speak about in the next 15 minutes? Oh. I think that talking about this idea of how we think that things are going to be better. We're tired of where we are, and we think that things are going to be better, or that we romanticize this idea of living in a foreign country. And, how can we not get caught up in that? I think that is something that I hear people ask me, am I just romanticizing? Should I do this or shouldn't I do this? And I think that's something that may concern people.
How do you know whether you're romanticizing it or whether this is
that's the question. Right? I think it's hard to know, but I think one thing that you might hear yourself saying if you're romanticizing something is, when I get there, everything's just going to be better. Everything's just going to be better.
It won't.
Yeah. Right. But I think somebody who's romanticizing, that will be like the refrain. Somebody who is maybe envisioning the kind of life they want will recognize that it's probably going to be hard, right? I want this thing. It's probably going to be hard. There are going to be benefits from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do it anyway.
Right.
I'm not running, right?
Right. So I think an exercise I do with some of my clients is we walk through what the actual day is like. Like when they open their eyes, what do they see? And they go through the day. And I think that, to your point, there's a way to call into your life the specific things you want, right? Like these are, I want to live. If you open your eyes, you open your curtain and you see the ocean, you probably don't want to be in Amsterdam because baby, all I see is gray out this window, right? That's a really great way to kind of help figure out where you should be, what you should be doing, those kind of things. But better doesn't really give you the tools you need to build on, right? So there's a way to say when I move to Liberia, I'm going to hire someone to come into my home every week and give me every 3 days. I'm getting a new pedicure because I'm hiring someone. That is a specific thing that you can put in place, right? That isn't necessarily, that's romantic, but it's not romanticizing the life in a way that isn't grounded, right? I feel like we can romanticize our life. It just has to be grounded, right? Better isn't a thing, right? It's just not in the sense that everything can be better or everything could be less better, right? Everything can be worse. And so there's no amount of better, but gets you to the end, that gets you to the best is what I would say. So being very specific about how you look, what you're looking for. To Patricia's point about not saying when I move abroad, I'm not going to have these problems. Well, what are you going to do differently? Because, right? How are you going to shape your life so that you're not running out of money, or whatever the thing is that you want to be better, you got to get a little bit more specific about why it's different, how it's better. And then, you're just gonna close your eyes and it's gonna happen. Patricia, do you believe that? I really believe that, like, if you decide you're gonna do something, you turn around 2 years later, it's done, and you don't know how it happened. It happened. That's my belief about life. What about you?
No.
No? Okay. Well, tell us.
Well, I think that there is the envisioning process,
Right?
and there's the process of, like, I think where we are today is not the person who can be or experience the thing that we want 2 years from now, right? I think there are, for example, when I wanted to move abroad, I didn't necessarily believe that it was possible. So I had to do some things to figure that out, hire a coach and start to listen to affirmations, start to do things that would shift who I was, so that that experience that I was going for would be possible for me to step into.
Yes. I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that once you decide that you really want it, you start taking those actions. And you might have never taken those, you know what I mean? Like, it's, for me, it's the decision point that, like,
Oh,
I decide I
okay.
want something, and then, like, I life, but, like, I life with that goal in mind. And so it's not like, and then the next day I was a different person. It's more like, and the next day I realized maybe I don't need that third cup of coffee from Starbucks, right? Like, maybe the next day I'm like, okay, so do I have enough shoes, or do I need to buy some more? Right? Like, those are the things
Yes.
where I'm like, you make
Decision.
that
Yes.
decision, you make that decision
Yes.
of
Yes.
what
I
you
agree. Yes. You have to you
to
have to
decide.
decide. And I
Right.
think a big part of deciding, especially a move abroad, is the where, because you may want to move abroad, but until you have decided on the where, it's really hard to take those steps, as you say.
Mhm. Right. So deciding on the where, I like to decide on the when, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
like to decide on the when, but I think the when and the where are the first two big steps.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else will fall into place if you let it and you don't sabotage yourself. Things are going to happen, right? Like, and maybe it's not the when you want it to be or the exact where, but like, if you're always like, I think I'd like that, but I'm not sure, or if it's like, I don't think it's possible for me, it's not, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't decided that you're going to do it and it's just a question of where and when,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen until you make that decision. And so the sooner you can say, like, I'm going to move abroad at this time, I'm going to move to this place, the sooner it will happen for you, because you'll be changing your life to make that thing come true. You'll be
Yes.
hiring people who can help facilitate that, like Patricia, who can help you if you've been dreaming about Europe and you're taking action, but you're in that spin cycle,
Mm-hmm.
not really making progress.
Yep. Yes, I agree with you there. I think that decision point is huge. That commitment, the belief that it's possible, and then
Mhm.
that third thing that I always talk about is do you believe you deserve it, right? Because you might feel like, well, who am I to have this thing? I want this, but if that's going to be the part where you sabotage yourself.
I had a new client in my coaching program yesterday, and she said that she pretty much like, if no one in my family got to do this, why do I get to do it? And she was
Mm.
younger than most of the women in there. We were all like, "Oh, no, no, no,
Mm.
baby. No, no." No, no. Or like, if the women in my family say, like, I'm supposed to be the responsible adult and, you know, carry on this line of Black excellence, who am I to not do what they say? And I'm, no, 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 no. Like, that's not like, you if that's what is important to you, that's what you'll do, right? And
Yeah.
so, but it has to, you have to decide if what you want is more important than what other people in your family want, because you're here on this program because you do want a career break or you want to move abroad. And so your family telling you, but they want other things for you is great. But which one is more important to you, right? Like what you want or what they want for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They'll come around. Listen, you move someplace fun and they're going to be like, hi, we just want to come visit real quick. Hi. Do you have people who come to visit you in your quaint countryside?
I do. In my first year, I had a second bedroom and I thought, oh, people would come visit me, and nobody did. But in my second year, the end of my second year, I had 2 people come visit me. One woman who I'd met at my book launch party, and they didn't really know her well. And now she actually is living in Niger, Africa, running a school there. And she was kind of influenced to say, okay, I'm retiring. I'm going to take my retirement and I'm going to do this because this mission work is important to me. So she came to visit. She's been here twice. And then a woman I met at a retreat in Alicante, Spain, she kind of invited herself. And I was like, she's Norwegian. And I thought, well, yeah, she's a nice enough person. Yeah, I'm not a big entertainer or a hostess, but I said, well, why not? So she came to visit me, and then she repaid the favor. So I went to visit her in Norway at Christmas 2022. So
nice.
Yeah.
Look at you. All European and stuff. So your visa, both the visitor and the professional liberal? No, that's not it. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. It allows free travel through the Schengen zone?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yay. So you can be anywhere in Europe. Well, almost anywhere in Europe.
Well, yes. And I guess, you say, I say that I'm not, yes, but, and I have my US passport. So,
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fancy. Okay, Patricia, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we get out of here, is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience?
If you want to if you are ready to move abroad, if you're ready to change your life in whatever fashion, decide. I think, Rashida, you hit the nail on the head there.
Decide and then call Patricia. Join her program.
Yes. Exactly.
Decide and then, okay, so thecouragecatalyst.com.
Yes.
I'm making that up right.
No, that's right.
It's linked in the description of this video. All right, y'all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being such a great guest, Patricia. I think that's it.
That's it. All right. Well, thank you again. Thanks, everybody.
And thank you for having me on your show, Patricia.
My pleasure.
Bye, y'all.